Okay, so, you know how we all kind of have this idea of like what's healthy to eat right?
Yeah,
Like, eat your vegetables,
right.
don't eat too much candy.
The basics.
But like, have you ever thought about how we all came to agree on those ideas?
Oh, that's interesting.
Like, how did that become common knowledge?
Yeah.
That's what we're going to dive into today.
Cool.
We're going to talk about the American food pyramid,
Okay.
which, like, it's supposed to be our guide to healthy eating, right?
Right.
But it turns out it's not as simple as we might think.
Oh, I like where this is going.
Yeah, we've got some sources that tell a pretty wild story about how this thing came to be.
Yeah.
And we'll start with, like, the origin story of the pyramid,
Okay.
which is honestly a lot less crazy than where we're going to end up.
Mm.
So it really did start with a good intention.
Okay.
Like, people genuinely wanted to help Americans eat better.
Makes sense.
And back then, people really trusted the government when it came to, like, nutrition advice.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So I can see how, like, a simple visual, like a pyramid,
Right.
would seem like a good way to get that advice across.
Yeah, totally.
And early on, a team of nutritionists
Okay.
actually put forward a proposal that,
Yeah.
looking back now, makes a lot of sense.
Interesting. What did they say?
So one of these nutritionists was named Luise Light,
Okay.
and her team, they recommended eating 5 to 9 servings of fruits and vegetables every day.
Okay.
And that was the base of their pyramid.
So produce was like the most important thing.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Then they said you should have like 2 to 4 servings of whole grains
Okay.
and only limited processed foods and sugars.
So basically the stuff we still consider healthy today.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, like, that all seems pretty reasonable,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, it does.
But that's not what ended up happening.
Really? So what did the final version of the pyramid actually look like?
So the one that actually went out to the public,
Yeah.
it looked totally different.
Yeah. How different are we talking?
Like, the base of the pyramid was completely flipped.
What?
Instead of fruits and veggies,
Right.
they recommended 6 to 11 servings of grains.
Whoa. That's a lot of grains.
Right. And a lot of those were refined grains.
Not even whole grains.
No.
Wow.
And get this, they included processed foods like white bread at the base of the pyramid.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Like the foundation of a healthy diet.
I know, it's crazy.
It's a complete 180 from what those nutritionists recommended.
Yeah, it really is.
So, like, what happened?
Well, it turns out the food industry has something to do with it,
Oh, what do you mean?
especially like the people who make wheat and corn.
Okay.
They really lobbied to change the pyramid,
I see.
so to help their profits,
So they were basically trying to make their products look healthier,
pretty much. Yeah,
even if they weren't.
yeah, and they were successful.
So by putting refined grains at the bottom,
Uh.
they basically made more people want to buy their products,
Exactly.
even though we know that eating too many refined grains and processed foods can lead to all sorts of health problems.
Like obesity and diabetes.
Exactly.
And, it's not a coincidence that after the pyramid came out,
Yeah.
we saw rates of those diseases go up.
Wow. So the food pyramid might have actually made our health worse.
It's hard to say for sure, but it definitely played a part.
Yeah, that's pretty unsettling.
It really is.
It makes you wonder what else we're being told is healthy that might not actually be so good for us.
Exactly. Like, who can we trust when it comes to this kind of information?
Yeah, it really makes you think.
It does. So, like, where do we go from here?
Right.
How can we even know if we're getting good information about food?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah, like, we think we're getting solid advice,
Right.
and then it turns out it was all influenced by, like, business interests.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough spot to be in.
It is. So how do we, like, protect ourselves from that?
Okay, well, first of all,
Yeah.
you got to be careful about those, like, really simple solutions.
Oh, yeah. I see what you mean.
Like, if someone's saying there's this one magic food,
That'll solve all your problems.
or like you have to cut out a whole food group.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I've definitely heard that.
That's a red flag.
Okay.
Nutrition's complicated,
Mm-hmm.
and there's not going to be one thing that works for everyone.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's so easy to fall for those claims, though.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Like, you want to believe there's a quick fix.
It's tempting.
It really is.
But you know what they say, if it sounds too good to be true,
It probably is.
it probably is.
Okay, so besides being wary of those simple solutions, what else can we do?
You really have to focus on finding information that's backed up by evidence.
Evidence-based.
Yeah.
Yep.
Don't just take someone's word for it.
Gotcha. Especially if they're trying to sell me something.
Right, especially then.
Yeah.
Yeah, look for research.
Okay, so where can I find good research on, like, nutrition?
There are some really great organizations out there,
Okay.
like the American Heart Association
No.
or the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics.
Got it.
They have these guidelines
Yeah.
based on evidence.
And they keep them updated with all the new research.
That makes sense?
Yeah, and you can find good info on some websites, too.
Okay. Any particular websites come to mind?
I don't want to mention any specific ones.
That's fair.
But, do your research.
Yeah.
And look for stuff by actual nutrition professionals.
Like registered dietitians.
Yeah, exactly.
So basically, we can't just trust whatever we hear.
Right.
We have to actually check the sources.
Yep. And don't blindly follow trends.
Gotcha. It sounds like a lot of work, though.
It can be.
But I guess it's worth it
Oh, absolutely.
if it means I'm taking control of my own health.
It is. And remember,
Yeah.
it's not just about what you eat,
Okay.
but also how much.
Portion control.
Yes, even for healthy foods.
Oh, that's a good point.
You have to find that balance.
Okay, so we've talked about the food pyramid and being critical of information.
Yeah.
But, what about actual tips for eating healthier?
Sure.
Where do I even start?
Honestly, a good rule of thumb is to just focus on whole, unprocessed foods.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
Like fruits, vegetables, lean protein,
Okay,
whole grains.
got it.
Those are naturally nutrient-rich.
Makes sense.
They give your body what it needs.
And I'm guessing less of the refined grains and processed foods.
Yeah, definitely limit those.
Okay, the stuff that ended up at the bottom of that messed up pyramid.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're often full of sugar and unhealthy fats.
Right, and sodium.
Yeah, all that stuff that can cause health problems.
But it's not about, never eating them, right? Not necessarily.
Just be mindful.
So balance and moderation.
Exactly.
Okay,
And also, listen to your body.
What do you mean?
Everyone's different.
Okay.
What works for one person might not work for another.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So pay attention to how different foods make you feel.
Okay, so it's not about, following a strict set of rules.
Right. It's about finding what works for you.
Got it.
And healthy eating doesn't have to be boring.
Yeah, it's
Good. There are tons of delicious healthy foods out there.
right.
Get creative in the kitchen, try new recipes.
Yeah.
Find ways to make it fun.
That's what I like to hear.
It's about enjoying your food.
Exactly.
And it's okay to have a treat every now and then.
Of course.
It's all about balance.
I like that.
Finding what works for you and your life.
Yeah. So it really sounds like we all have to, take responsibility, for learning about this stuff and making good choices.
Absolutely. You said it perfectly.
And it's crazy that, the food pyramid,
Yeah.
something that seems so official,
Right.
can be so misleading.
It's a good reminder that we can't just trust everything we hear.
Right, even if it's coming from, the government or whoever.
Exactly. You got to be your own advocate.
You have to do the research yourself.
Yeah. Ask questions.
Be skeptical.
Be open to different ideas.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Like this food pyramid thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a wake-up call.
It is.
We can't take anything for granted.
And that's true for so many things.
Not just food.
Yeah, no, not just food.
Think about the news or even politics.
It's all the same.
Yeah, we have to be critical thinkers about everything.
Exactly. And it's a skill you can develop.
Right. Like a muscle.
Like a muscle.
Yeah. We have to train ourselves to think critically.
It's so important with how much information is out there.
I know it's overwhelming.
It is. And it's easy to just get swept up in it all.
But this whole deep dive,
Yeah.
it's made me realize I have to step back and question things more.
That's great to hear.
It is. And, there are resources out there to help us.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like registered dietitians,
Yeah.
doctors.
Yeah.
We don't have to figure everything out on our own.
Right. Ask for help.
So we've covered a lot today.
We have.
We debunked this whole food pyramid myth.
That's right.
We talked about being critical of information.
Yep.
And we even got some good tips for eating healthier.
And most importantly, we learned about taking charge of our health.
That's right. I feel like this deep dive has honestly changed my perspective.
I'm glad to hear that.
It has. I'm looking at the food pyramid differently.
Yeah.
And just information in general.
And that's the power of knowledge, right?
It-
When you have the right info, you can make the best choices for yourself.
That's a great way to put it.
You can live a healthier, happier life.
Well, that's about all the time we have for today's deep dive.
Great talking with you.
Yeah, this was awesome.
Right.
We'll put links to all those sources in the show notes
Definitely.
so you can check them out for yourself.
Keep learning, everyone.
Exactly. Keep questioning, keep learning, and keep diving deep.